Good morning, students. So this is your second video on respiratory system, class 9 biology. So today we are going to start from two kinds of respiration. They are aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So aerobic respiration means that occur in presence of oxygen, and anaerobic means, from the term only you can understand, that take place in absence of oxygen. So the respiration occurs in absence of oxygen, but anaerobic respiration may occur in our own body as well. How? During continuous physical exercise such as fast running, walking over long distance, swimming, wrestling, weightlifting, etc., our muscles work too fast and does not get enough oxygen, and in this situation our muscles are working in the absence of oxygen. Understood? So for certain time in our muscle, anaerobic respiration can take place that provide us extra energy. So in this case, the product of anaerobic respiration in muscle is lactic acid. Which acid? Lactic acid. And due to accumulation of lactic acid, the person feels fatigue or pain as well on muscle. We even call it oxygen debt. Why? Because when a person rests after such exercise, this lactic acid gets slowly oxidized by the oxygen, and later the debt is cleared, producing carbon dioxide in this process. Now if we talk about the main difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, then so in case of aerobic respiration, it is the breakdown of glucose in presence of oxygen which releases enough energy, whereas in case of anaerobic respiration there is a breakdown of glucose in absence of oxygen. But if we compare it with the aerobic respiration, then it produces less energy. Moreover, this anaerobic process is quite slow. Now let's see the chemical equation of aerobic respiration. So we know that in case of aerobic respiration, glucose breaks down in presence of oxygen. So this is the chemical equation where it gives 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, water, and if we see in case of energy, then it produces 686 kilocalorie per mole energy. Even we can represent the energy in the form of ATP as well. So in case of aerobic respiration, we get 38 ATP and 420 kilocalorie of energy is released as heat. Let me show you the calculation here. Suppose a person is taking 180 gram of glucose, okay, which release energy that is 686 kilocalories. So this is the total energy. Now 1 mole of ATP requires 7 kilocalorie energy. That means 38 ATP will be produced by consuming 266 kilocalorie energy. So now we can subtract this with the total energy. That means it is 420. So here this 420 kilocalorie energy is released as heat. Now let's see the chemical reaction in case of anaerobic respiration. So we know anaerobic respiration takes place in absence of oxygen, and when we work very fast due to insufficient oxygen, there might be accumulation of lactic acid in our muscles as well. So here the reaction is glucose, that is C6H12O6, where certain enzyme functions and produces lactic acid plus only 2 ATPs and heat energy. So very less energy generates in case of anaerobic respiration. So just note down one thing, that this is for animals only. When anaerobic respiration takes place in animals. Now let's see in case of plants. So anaerobic respiration occurs in plants as well. In this case, glucose breaks down to form ethanol and carbon dioxide. Let's recapitulate again between the aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So it occurs in presence of oxygen and it occurs in absence of oxygen. It produces more energy, almost 38 ATPs, and it produces less energy, that is 2 ATP. This is quite fast process, but this process is quite slow. Now I am going to differentiate between the anaerobic respiration in case of plants and animals. So in case of animals, glucose breaks down to form ethanol and CO2. But in case of animals, the glucose breaks down to form lactic acid, but there is no release of carbon dioxide. In case of plants, heat energy generate is more. But in this case, heat generation is less. Our next topic is breathing. Respiratory cycle. So respiratory cycle consists of inspiration, that is breathing in, and expiration, that is breathing out. In normal adults, the breathing rate is 12 to 18 breaths per minute. So let's start from inspiration first, that is also called inhalation. So in case of inspiration, there is increase in the size of thoracic cavity, and this increase is due to combined action of the rib cage and the diaphragm. In this case, the ribs are moved upward and outward. There is a contraction of the intercostal muscles that stretched between them, thus enlarging the chest cavity all around. And the diaphragm, a sheet of muscular tissue which remains arched upward like a dome normally, contracts and flatten from the dome shaped to an almost horizontal plane, so that this chest cavity get enlarged lengthwise, and this presses the organs inside the abdomen, as a result of which there is increase in the volume of the chest cavity that decreases the pressure inside it. So what we learn, that during inspiration or inhalation, ribs moves outward, diaphragm contracts or flattens or goes downward, chest cavity increases, means the volume of the chest increases and the pressure decreases. Now let's read about expiration, that is the opposite of inspiration. So in this case, the chest contracts, the diaphragm relaxes and moves upward. So chest contracts means here the intercostal muscle relax and the ribs moves automatically inward, means on its original position, whereas diaphragm relaxed and move upward to its dome-like outline. That means in this case the volume of thoracic cavity decreases and the lungs are compressed, forcing the air out in the atmosphere. So in case of expiration, ribs contracts, or we can say depressed, diaphragm relaxed or moved to its original position, chest cavity, that is the volume of the chest, decreases, thus forcing the air out into the atmosphere, and the pressure increases. The next important topic is capacities of the lungs. So, capacities of the lungs or the respiratory volume in a normal human adult are approximately as follows. Now, another most important topic is capacities of the lungs. So, capacities of the lungs or the respiratory volume in normal human adults are approximately as follows. So first one is tidal volume. This is the air that we breathe in or out in a normal unforced breathing. So it is 500 milliliter. Next is dead air space, means some tidal air is left in respiratory passage, that is in trachea or in bronchi, where no diffusion of gases takes place. So that is 150 milliliter. Even some tidal air contained in air sacs as well, that is in alveoli, that is 350 milliliter. Next is inspiratory reserve volume. So here, air that can be drawn in forcibly over and above tidal volume. So the air that you can draw in forcibly, which could be above tidal air, is up to 3000 milliliter, and this is also called complemental air. Next is inspiratory capacity. So total volume of air a person can breathe in after a normal expiration. Suppose after expiration, the volume of air a person can breathe in is 3500 milliliters. So this is the total volume of air a person can breathe after a normal expiration. Next is expiratory reserve volume, means the air that can be forcibly expelled out after normal expiration. So it is also called supplemental air, that is 1000 milliliter. Next is vital capacity. So here the volume of air that can be taken in and expelled out by maximum inspiration and expiration, means even after maximum inspiration or expiration, the volume of air that can be taken in again, that is 4500 milliliter. Next is residual volume. So some air is always left in the lungs even after forcibly breathing out, and this is called leftover or residual air, that is 1500 milliliter. And the last one is total lung capacity. So the maximum air which can at any time be held in two lungs is 6000 milliliter. Next topic is effect of altitude on breathing. So sometime as we go higher up, the air we breathe in decrease in pressure accompanied by gradual decrease in oxygen content. So here we are going to read about hypoxia and asphyxia. So what happens is that when we go higher up, the air we breathe in decrease in pressure accompanied by a gradual decrease in oxygen content. At about 4500 meters above sea level, one may suffer from air sickness, in which lack of oxygen leads to dizziness, unsteady vision, loss of hearing, lack of muscular coordination, and even complete blackout. So, hypoxia is the condition where there is deficiency of oxygen. So, hypoxia is a condition in which the body or the region of the body is deprived of adequate oxygen supply. And this may result due to sitting for long hours in a crowded room with poor ventilation. Or it may also be experienced at high altitudes where the oxygen content of the air is low. So more or less it affects our whole body. Whereas asphyxiation is a condition in which the blood becomes more venous by accumulation of more carbon dioxide, and the oxygen supply is diminished. And there may be various reasons or causes behind this. So it can be due to strangulation, drowning, or any kind of obstruction in the respiratory tract. So it may even cause death if it is not removed quickly. Even artificial respiration is helpful in certain cases.